What is up, guys? We are back. This is Cody with F is for Fanatic, and it's our regular Saturday live call-in show. We'll run this thing um, about 30 minutes. If nobody calls in, if people do call in, then we will keep this thing rolling. So, a couple things I wanted to talk about in Gator Nation. Um, Obviously, it's been talked about a little bit already. That essentially the wide receiver coach has been hired. Old Billy G is back, the Billy connection. So I think it's a good hire. I think with Coach, I just call him Coach D because I butcher his name so bad. With Coach D getting the promotion, the graduate assistant to the essentially assistant wide receiver coach, I don't think he was ready to become the wide receiver coach, but I think you have a good coach that is going to be there when Coach G decides to. What's up? You have short, call in. The link is in the description, and it's also right there. So, um, so essentially, I think it's a good hire. It's not my favorite hire. Let's say this: Coach G has definitely put some guys in the league. His resume is extensive. He is an older guy, which I like a little bit of mixture. You can't have all young guys. If you have all young guys, you don't have the experience. Okay, that's cool. You have short. Thanks for watching. You're welcome on anytime. So essentially, I like what, like we have talked about before. I like a proven guy in the defensive back coach, which we have in Corey Raymond, and I like a proven guy in the wide receiver coach. Those kids like a guy that's been proven, sent guys to the league. I'm not saying the other positions, yeah, it's great, but the defensive and wide receivers, the defensive back and wide receivers are kind of the same type of guys. They're big alphas. You got to have a big alpha for a wide receiver coach. He's kind of got to have some swagger to him. And I think you get that in both Coach Billy G and Corey Raymond, obviously. So I do like the hire. I like. Listen, guys, we weren't going to get Heartline, so that wasn't going to happen. I like the hire better than some of the other guys, and this is why. Coach Gonzalez has been down in Florida 3 times now. He knows the high schoolers, the high school coaches, and that goes a long way. So these kids, a lot of them taking the accountability of what their high school coach thinks on programs. It's not everything. It's not the what I'd say, like the you can write the check on it if the high school coach says go here, but there's definitely some pull. And if you got a guy that's already been in the high schools, knows all the coaches, and from what I have heard, now I am not an insider. I don't have any inside news. But what I've heard is a lot of people in the high school level, high school coaches like Coach Gonzalez, because he has taken their players and put them to the league. And that's what everybody wants to do, right? Is get to the league. So I think it's a super, super stable hire. I don't see him. That's another thing. We could have hired somebody else, and then we could have been in the same situation, kind of like the Colbert hire. And a lot of people, I don't know why people are so upset, because a lot of people didn't even like the Colbert hire until he brought in that trio of wide receivers this past year, and Mizell, Andy, Jean, and Wilson. So it's one of those things, you can't make everybody happy in this fan base. It's life. But I do think it's a good hire. I think it's a stable hire. I think it's a safe hire. I think it's not as flashy as what everybody wanted. But I think it is. Sorry, the cat. Let me move this a little bit. The cat thinks my green screen is like his napping screen because it hangs down. Sorry about that, guys. But so it's not Brian Hartline from Ohio State. We get it, but I think it's a good quality hire. Um, I want to step back onto some more Austin Armstrong. He was doing an interview and he said we like to negotiate with a hammer. I think you need that. From pictures and videos of spring training, he seems like he's got a lot of juice. I like that a lot. I think that's very important in a defensive coordinator. And people have already said that he is more. I'm trying to think of the word. I can't say passionate. He's just got more juice to him than what Patrick Toney did. I think that resonates with the players. He's young. I think that there is going to be a lot of players that want to buy into him. And listen, he's young, but he had a good defense at South Mississippi. And he kind of had to use with what he had to work with, if that makes sense. South Mississippi does not recruit great, okay? They are not a big time recruiting ground in Mississippi. You have Ole Miss there. You have Jackson State is down there that has recruited pretty well with Dion before he went to Colorado. You have Lane Train. You have Mississippi State. You got Auburn 90 miles away. You got Alabama. You got LSU 90 miles away. So there's a lot of competition for those kids in Mississippi. And so they kind of were doing things unconventional way. They were getting kids out of community colleges. They were, I mean, everything that you could think of to get players on that team, they were doing it. And I watched a lot of the film, and it is some boomer bust, but that's what happens when you're aggressive, okay? He plays extremely aggressive defense. It's a lot of man, a lot of you don't know where the pressure's coming from, and me and Seth V, we had a live stream of the film breakdown from Austin Armstrong, and we saw it there where it's a lot of boomer bust. So I'm gonna say this: it's gonna be different than what Patrick Toney brought. You know, Patrick Toney was very aggressive at Louisiana, and I was super excited when he got the job. And I watched the Louisiana film, and I was like, man, this guy's aggressive. You never know where the blitz is coming from. I really like it. But when he got to Florida, I don't know if he thought because it's big boy ball that he wasn't going to be able to play the same scheme. It was the same scheme, but the same type of aggressiveness. I don't know what happened. But he really got conservative, like super conservative all of a sudden. And so I'm going to have to pause this to get water. My mouth is dry. I had a sorry. My thought just killed me. Okay. So he just turned super conservative all of a sudden. If you look at the tape of Patrick Toney at Louisiana and Patrick Toney at Florida, it doesn't even look like the same defense. It's the same scheme, but it doesn't look the same. It's very odd that he did that. It's kind of one of those things where it's I don't get it. I don't know what happened. And now I don't know if he didn't believe that those players that he had at Florida could do what they did at Louisiana scheme wise, that he had built that defense to be aggressive like that. Sorry guys, I'm gonna have to grab a bottle of water real fast. Whew, I was dying. So I don't know if he thought like, hey, these players just can't do it. And listen, this defense was bad under two coordinators. I I think if even you had Kirby Smart in there running the defense, it still would have been bad. Maybe not as bad, but Jesus. And I'm not saying that those players were bad, are going to be bad in the NFL. I think there's a couple players that are going to go and do good things in the NFL. I think there's a couple players that are going to get drafted lower than what they think. And it's going to show, especially when they get around that real talent that they have in the NFL, where everybody is the best players everywhere at every position. So, yeah, it's kind of odd. I don't think it will happen. I think that Armstrong is smart enough to say, look, I don't think it's in his nature either. But, that was the failings of Patrick Toney, is he just wasn't very aggressive. It was a lot of dink and dunk ball where he would, like, all of a sudden we'd have guys like 10 yards off, 15 yards off the ball, the corners. I didn't get it. So he didn't bring pressure a lot. And, that's even worse. I mean, at least if you're sending 7 guys, you have Short make a comment on this if you think so. Would you rather watch your team get dinked and dunked down the field and still give up big plays? Or would you rather us blitz 7 people and maybe give up a big play? I mean, I'd rather be aggressive and see, essentially see 7 people going after the quarterback, and maybe the corner doesn't hold up. That's another thing under Armstrong. The corners are going to have to be good, because they're going to be left out on an island. He's going to be bringing people all over the place. And that's one thing about his corners at Southern Mississippi. They were very good on the island. They were very confident on an island, and they would get nasty with it in the run game. I mean, they would stick their nose in, and they had no problem popping a wide receiver screen, or like a tunnel screen. They had no problem doing that and getting nasty with it. They had no problem in the run game sticking their nose in and popping a running back coming around the corner. They set the edge well. I mean, the alignment was a lot better for South Mississippi, comparative to what we saw under Patrick Toney. Billy Napier kept saying alignment, but they weren't doing it under Grantham either. I mean, 1 year under Grantham, I remember we couldn't even get the plays in. Go ahead, comment if you're watching. See who all is in here. So we couldn't even get the plays in. What year was that? I think it was Grantham's last year, or maybe the year right before he should have got fired. Man, we couldn't even get the play. Like, the defense was just standing around, like, looking towards the sideline, like, what play we running, coach? We couldn't even get the plays in. So I think it's going to be a lot better. Like I said, we'll keep this thing running about 30 minutes, unless somebody calls in. So I hope somebody does, because, man, I got the worst cottonmouth ever today. I don't know why. I know what people are thinking. I don't do that. I get DOT drug tested, so I wish. But so I just, it's got to be better, right, guys? I don't remember the last dominant Florida defense, truly dominant. It had to be under Will Muschamp, maybe, right when I started watching UF. We usually have like one good cornerback for some reason, like a first rounder, like every third year. We get a really, really stud. We had Henderson, Elam. There was a guy before that too. Garner Johnson was good. So yeah, we usually have like like one DB that goes like high rounds like every third year. So that's kind of odd, but you can't just have one. You got to have multiple. And we're seeing that in the NFL too. Cornerback is an absolute premium. A premium. These guys are bringing big money because you got to have them. You got to have 4 guys. You know, when the tight ends are running as fast as they are, you got to have a cornerback that can keep up with them and that can, which nobody seems to be able to guard Cooper Kupp, but I digress. You got to have them. So corner is an absolute premium, and it's a premium in college football too. You know, the teams with the better corners, they seem to do a little bit better in defense. Now, I will say this. Armstrong's defense at Southern Miss, they got a lot of pressure up the middle, like right up the gut, like with the 2 nose guards. I like that because that is the worst type of pressure for a quarterback. You know, you can bring a blitz to the outside and the quarterback can step into the pocket and you can, he can step in or move around. But when he's got pressure on his feet, when that center's getting forklifted or doing the old as Seth called it, the Olay block, where somebody just fires past them, that really affects the quarterbacks. And look at how effective Georgia's defense was when they have good interior defensive linemen. It's very effective. Very, very effective. So I just don't know what player is going to do that for us. I know we got Will Norman, Kelby Collins. Will Norman's not going to be big enough and strong enough yet. Kelby Collins is an outside guy. We have Big Dez. If Big Dez can get some better penetration, that's going to be a lot better. But with his weight, I'm not sure conditioning-wise what we're going to see out of him, snap count-wise. So it's a little harder. He might just be used as a run stopper. The guy out of Memphis, Cameron, I can't remember his last name. But the kid out of Memphis is apparently just a terror. Now, is that because Florida's offensive line isn't that good this year? We don't know. But he is an absolute terror in spring practice. Go ahead and comment if you're watching live. The link is in the description. Go ahead and hop on here. If nobody hops on, we're going to close this thing down in about 10-15 minutes. It's a point of a live call-in shows for people to call in. But the kid out of Memphis, the transfer out of Memphis is apparently in spring practice, everybody is talking about. He isn't just an absolute terror. And when you have a guy like that, that's really exciting. But he's a big guy again. So how many plays are you going to get behind him? I think we still have McClellan too. Bigger guy. Dexter's gone to the draft. I would have wished it. I get it. He's got a kid and a fiance, so he's trying to go earn money. I'm not gonna ever knock a guy to do that, but man, I would have loved to see him just one more year under Armstrong. I really would have. I think it would have been something special. I think he could have been a first rounder, but I get it. Like when you're young and you have a kid and he's making money through an NIL, but it's different when you have your first kid. You definitely think different. So good for him. He's a hard worker. He got double teamed a lot. He was kind of thrown in an unfair spot. I think he started as a freshman, and he just. I can't say that the production wasn't there because he was getting double teamed so much, but there wasn't a lot around him that could help him, if that makes sense. So it's one of those things like what do you want him to do? But apparently he got a good enough draft grade to go for him to say like it's going to be worth it, and he's going to make good money and money enough. Hopefully his he gets a couple contracts or if he doesn't make it and he fizzles out, the NFL's tough. It's like 1%. So he'll make enough money to have a nice nest egg for him and his kid, and that's really, I'm not knocking the guy. I just would have been super excited under this defensive scheme and one more year at Florida and some actual depth behind him. That's Gervon Dexter's biggest problem. Is he was playing like every snap. And when you're a big guy like that, it's just tough. It's tough on everybody when you don't have depth. And what's his name? Drawing a blank. I use this quote all the time. It's called having SEC depth. And there's a difference between depth and SEC depth. You got to have guys that, like when Bama loses a player or Georgia loses a player, they got another 4 or 5 star riding the pine that's ready to go. Those guys are Ohio State too. Those guys are ready to go. Yeah, it's a team, but they want their snaps too. And if you get hurt, there's a possibility you're never getting your job back. That happened to our linebacker at the transfer from Ohio State. He kind of got dinged up, and then that linebacker room was so deep at Ohio State, you get kind of washed away in the mix. And, that happens. And so, and then he went through some stuff, he really wasn't loving football. I get it. Especially think about being the best of the best of the best. And then you go to college and it's a reality factor. Like, hey, like I'm not the best here. And then you get hurt and then you're dealing with an injury. And especially guys, I mean, they're young guys. I thought I was invincible at 21 too. And so you essentially get washed away in a deep linebacker room. Yeah, I get it. So, but the biggest thing that hurt Gervon Dexter was definitely just not having anybody behind him that could help, that could spot him, And it's one of those things. It's like, what are you going to do? The link's in the description, guys, if you guys want to call him. So we got a couple people watching. So it's like, what are you going to do? You can't blame him for not being as productive as what you thought he was going to be if you kept him on the field the whole time. So, and especially with the erratic as the offense was, sometimes it was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, like we saw during the Kentucky game. Or sometimes it was a big heave and we were scoring in 10 seconds and the defense was right back on the field. That don't help the defense at all. They don't even get a breather. So that was my little spiel on Gervon. He kind of got the raw end of the deal. But, hopefully he makes big money in the NFL and he can provide for his kid. So we got about 5 minutes left. If nobody calls in, we're going to wrap this thing up. So go ahead, hit the link or shoot a comment down in the comment section just so I know who you are. I can say, hey. But next thing I kind of wanted to talk about is this kind of pod schedule. Now, everybody is kind of freaking out about it because there's been a couple of them that have been posted out there, and that's the permanent games you're going to have. Now, it's like anything else. We don't know till we know. So these are just guesses. So everybody's all up in arms about, Florida's not going to have Tennessee or Kentucky anymore. Like, listen, we don't know yet. I think you have to have Tennessee. Kentucky is not a rivalry for us. I mean, we beat them, 30 times in a row? They've only been relevant like the last 5 years since Mark Stoops brought that team back from the dumpster fire that they were. And that guy's going to be leaving soon. Him and the basketball coach are at each other's throat all the time. Stoops is going to be gone to a better job. But drop a comment in the comment section so I can see who you are and I can throw a hey to you. So yeah, Stoops is going to be gone soon. So I don't, if we don't schedule Kentucky, cool, whatever. It is what it is. Now, the team I am excited about, and I'm hoping that we get, is Oklahoma. I'm super excited about Oklahoma coming to the SEC and Texas. But rivalry-wise, boy, I'm telling you, I think it's going to be something nasty between Oklahoma and Florida. They are 1-1 on the they've only met twice, and they're 1-1. So they beat us during that Trask when all the players decide to not go to that bowl game. And then obviously we beat them during the national championship game. But you talk about a proud fan base and a fan base that is fanatical like us, and a fan base that's locked in on recruiting. And you can tell, like, there's some fan bases, you look up the podcast for them, and there's like 3, 4. Like, my dad's a big Wisconsin fan. They got like 3 podcasts. I think Oklahoma might have more podcasters covering Oklahoma than Florida does. Like, it's wild. They have a truly fanatical fan base. Listen, Brett Venable is took over a dumpster fire from what, who is a bigger threat to Florida this season, in your opinion, the Noles or the Vols? Boy, Pigskin, that is a heck of a question. Like and sub if you already aren't. If you want to hop on, the link is in the description. You don't even have to show your face. It's a live call-in show. Who do I think is a bigger threat? May I tell you? I think the Noles. And this is why. FSU's bringing everybody back. FSU goes out in the transfer portal again, and their coach, I'm drawing a blank now. Golly, this sucks getting old. Norvell. Mike Norvell is literally Bill Belichicking the free agency. That's what it seems like. The transfer portal. And they got the kid Bell out of South Carolina coming too. I as long as Jordan Travis stays healthy, Pigskin, I think Florida State's going to a playoff. I think they can make a deep run. They got a favorable schedule. They got LSU week 1. The best thing to do when you have a hard team is to get them early. That's what everybody says about Bama too. You want them early before the train gets rolling and they figure everything out. I think FSU's bringing back almost their whole team. So I think they're tough. I think Tennessee's going to be interesting. I think they're kind of a flash in the pan. I know they have a quarterback that's decent, but doesn't have a lot of game experience. Obviously, Hooker went to the NFL. I don't know if their big wide receiver went to the NFL also. Could not agree more. Would love to hop on, but hang in with the kiddos today. That's cool, Pigskin. Even the comments help. It helps me keep the dialogue on. So if you can't call in, just drop a comment on stuff you want to talk about, and we'll keep this thing rolling, okay? Yeah, and the Vols, I don't know. The defense is bad. God, they're a bad defense. Now, are they bad because they're a bad unit? Are they bad because the offense is going out and scoring in 15 seconds every drive, and they essentially never get off the field? That doesn't help. We just talked about that does not help your defense is scoring that fast. So it's one of those things where, you have to figure it out. The defense, you're not going to listen, playing a high snap rate, high caliber offense. It's going to get you a lot of wins, but you know where it's not going to get you wins. It's not going to get you wins against Georgia. It's not going to get you wins against some of the better defensive teams. And, it's one of those things. Yeah, it'll get you 8 or 10 wins a year. And if you're okay with that as a fan base, that's fine. I think right now Tennessee is okay with that as a fan base just because the turmoil that they have went through the last couple coaches with Butch Jones and I can't remember the last guy. He was kind of a hothead. But, I think, they extended him. They gave him a big fat contract, the new Tennessee coach. So we'll see. Heupel got a big old fat contract extension, but so did Norvell. So we'll have to see about those teams. Dang, that was a good question, man. If you got another one, fire one back in there. But yeah, my thing is FSU. Unfortunately, they're set up deep for a playoff run. And we have a good buddy here from off of High Top Sports, Holly. He's a FSU fan, and we've talked about it quite a bit. And he's in the same thing. If Jordan Travis can do something that he hasn't done all his season, that's kind of the knock on him, and stay healthy. If he can stay healthy for entire stretch, entire season, I don't see why they can't. I don't see why they can't make a deep run into the playoff. Now, am I claiming them to be a national champion? No. That's always been Heupel's problem. How can that defense even get a good breath with making adjustments with an offense moving so fast? Right, Pigskin. I'm going to fire that one up there. Man, that is a good comment. So, that's true. And that's the knack, right? Like, he wants to... Heupel kind of reminds me of Mullen. What fan base do you like? What team do you like too, Pigskin? Was my favorite position group in Florida. All right, we will break that down. Let me say this about Heupel real fast. He feels Mullen-esque to me when Mullen got here. I feel like Heupel thinks that he has the best offensive mind in the SEC, and he may. But again, his favorite games are like Sooner. Okay. All right. So do you agree that Oklahoma? Darn it, that dang rabbit hole. All right, hold on. So yes, I think Heupel's a lot like Mullen. I think that once the defenses figure out his offense, he's going to be in deep trouble. I think the defense he is doing no favors to, and his favorite games are high scoring, and you're going to win a lot of games, but you're not going to win the big one. That's on Heupel. Next question. My favorite position group in Florida, bar none, the running backs. We got two NFL backs right now, and Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne. I think they probably need to get the ball more. I think my second favorite position right now, also, I think the DNs probably is my second favorite position. Oh yeah, those running backs they're real deal. And they tear everybody up. So, yeah, I'm super excited about that, man. The running backs, and now we have some transfers in the offensive line. Which we run two offensive line coaches. I don't know if you heard that, but it's different. Some teams do it, not a lot, but Florida had one of the best offensive lines that we've had in years under this system. And let me tell you, it does help. And I think this, truthfully, I love AR. He's a stud. He's a freak. But I think this offense runs better under Mertz. I just do. Mertz can make the short passes. He can make the slants. He can do some of the stuff that AR really struggled with. So I think the offense is more consistent. Now, those days of the 80-yard runs for scampering for touchdowns are over, obviously. I have been curious about the O-line in the swamp. Okay, so here's the deal with the O-line. We got some transfers. Mazuka from... I want to say Oregon. We got a kid from Alabama that was going to be a starter and decided to come to Florida, transfer. We got a couple guys coming back, and Jalen Farmer and Waits was coming back, but he tore his ACL. And then we got Goodwin out of Kentucky, 5-star transfer. But it's one of those things that's proven, Pigskin. It's truly proven, or it's not proven, but you don't worry about it as much because the coaching is so good in that aspect. Does that make sense? Have you felt like that before? Like, yeah, the offensive line, this unit hasn't ever played any games together, but you feel like, look, these two coaches and Rob Sale, and I forgot the other one, that they, they're not going to have a bad offensive line. Does that make sense, Pigskin, to you? You just, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, we have two of the best offensive line coaches we got two of the best offensive line coaches essentially in college football. So it's like, yeah, we don't worry about that. Yeah, Oklahoma's defense was not good last year at all. And that's why I think it's kind of funny. The University of Florida and Oklahoma are running on a lot of similar parallels. Do you by chance watch Around the Table Sports, Pigskin? Because me and Ty talked about it. Two coaches that inherited bad problem programs after Tebow left. You guys, which I found that's my new favorite acronym, so I use it all the time now. After he left you guys, and then the way that Mullen got fired midseason and really wasn't recruiting and had been checked out for a couple years. Yeah. So the parallels of Napier and your head coach Venable are the same. But I think Venable is a defensive guy, right? He's kind of a defensive minded coach. Napier's definitely an offensive minded coach. But I think the parallels of what they took over are the same. And this is why I think the essentially the rivalry is really going to heat up if we start playing every year. Number one, we both have iconic stadiums. Number two, very passionate fan bases. I was saying before you got on, maybe, I don't know if you heard this, but like you can tell like how passionate the fan base is by how many podcasts there are covering the teams. And I think Oklahoma might have as many as Florida, maybe a little more of people that cover the team. So that just shows you that, like, and Ty said it. He's like, yeah, the Oklahoma fans, they watch my stuff no matter what. So, I think in Florida is the same way. If you pick on them, they get riled up. They're ready to come after you with pitchforks. But yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Pigskin. Yeah, it's gonna be wild. And I tell you, do you go to a lot of games? Because I have gone to the Swamp, and it is deafening. It is the loudest place you ever have been. Death Valley might be another one. LSU night game at Death Valley. You get all them drunk raging Cajuns in there, and they go absolutely wild, and they get good tradition down there too. But I tell you, man, the Swamp, you get 90,000 people in that place. It's in like a bowl, and golly, it's deafening loud. So yeah, that's a top game. If we can get that going, man. It's different. It's different. It's loud. It's the wildest thing you ever seen. So I don't know where you live and how far you are from the University of Florida. And I know things are expensive nowadays in 2023. But if you can take you and your kids to go to the Swamp, by God, you'll fall in love with it. You don't even have to like the Gators. The atmosphere is just absolutely wild. It is wild. Make sure you go to a night game though, because it's unruly hot. Like the humidity and heat down there is just something else. I'm in the Midwest. But last year I went to the Kentucky game. I might go to the Kentucky game. It's at Kentucky here. For UF, they have a really nice stadium and a really nice venue, so I might go to that one. I don't know yet. Like I said, things are very, very, very expensive. Plus, with me podcasting for the team, it's me and Shelton from High Top Sports talked about this. It's harder to do it. Yeah, you get some good stuff, but it's tough to do because we're gonna be doing a live call-in show. It's kind of gonna be like a Gator vent line and a Gator win line. When the Gators lose, we'll let you call in and keep it PG-13, but we'll let you essentially just vent. We'll give you a little therapy. I think every team should do that. I think every podcaster should do that because there's nothing worse after a bad loss, right? Pigskin, where you're essentially you just need to call in and just just vent. The coach, shouldn't have called the timeout then, and you know how it is. So, fan stands for fanatic. So that's why I named the podcast this. And it gets buck nasty. Oh, I do too. Pigskin. I am the guy that is watching Montana versus Montana State in my garage, smoking a cigar at 1 a.m. I love a Hawaii game that's a late kickoff because it gives me something to watch. As wild as that sounds, I'm definitely a college guy now. I watch the Vikings for football for the NFL, but college is where it's at. It's my true love. Yes, it should be on your bucket list. And I have a really, really good friend that lives in Oklahoma, so I'm going to try to make one of these Oklahoma Florida games if this gets as a set schedule. I know that they are going to we will be playing Oklahoma at least once every other year if we don't get them in our little pod that they're suggesting for the SEC. Listen, and they're still working on stuff like that. And I'll tell you this, if there's two teams that are groomed and ready to go to the SEC, minus named Ohio State, that can walk in and actually compete, I think it's Oklahoma and Texas. You guys got the money. You guys got the recruiting power. You guys have the nice facilities to keep up with recruiting, obviously. I think Texas and Oklahoma are the only two teams minus Ohio State that could walk into the SEC and not be a doormat day one. Clemson, I don't know about Clemson. I'm not a big Clemson fan. They really haven't done anything after Trevor Lawrence. So then you start scratching your head and wondering. They don't really play anybody over there in the ACC, and Florida State doesn't either, but I think they got a good coach there. I don't know. Clemson is usually on when Florida's watching them, so, and to be fair, it might just be me not watching them a lot, but I don't see it. They had that championship run when Trevor was there, and that's fine and dandy. But like in anything else in college football and the NFL, it's what have you done for me lately, and they really haven't showed me anything. I think I watched was it South Carolina that blew them out? Pigskin late in the season, like one of the last games. I think South Carolina blew the doors off of them. I don't know. I'm not a big Clemson fan, but I think Texas, Ohio State, and Oklahoma are the three best teams that could walk into the SEC. Yeah, he is. It's funny you say that. My dad's a big UW fan, and they are the same way. Yeah, it was. Okay, I just want to make sure. So, my dad's a big UW fan, and their only transfer that they've had in the last 20 years was Russell Wilson, and they wouldn't take transfers. Now they have the guy from Cincinnati, the head coach from Cincinnati, and he's bringing transfers in left and right. So, yeah, the days of just building off high school recruiting are over. You got to go into the portal and get guys. And yes, I think it is stunting their growth also. Yeah. And we talk about this. I've said this a couple times, Pigskin. If I could get a guy with 3 years eligibility left and he's been in the college weight program already and maybe just hasn't played a bunch of snaps, or I could get a 5-star or high 4-star kid out of high school, I'm taking the transfer. Like, especially on the defensive line and offensive line, I'm taking the transfer. Maybe not at wide receiver or what have you, but the O-line, D-line, definitely a transfer. And the game is won in the trenches. So, and I don't think Clemson has really had that historically good defense or defensive line of the past. Like I said, I don't watch a lot of them, and some Clemson fan can get on here and probably insert my foot into my mouth for me, but I don't track them a lot. I don't care to. They're kind of a boring program to me. But besides when with that Trevor Lawrence, who was a generational type quarterback, when was the last time they were really good? So yeah, I think it's one of those things you can't be stubborn anymore. You gotta adjust, and that's the programs they're gonna do are gonna go further along are the programs that adjust. It's kind of like running a company. You can't say, oh, we're not doing this because we don't like to. If it makes money, it makes sense. So it's one of those things. Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. And even if you get a guy that has kind of been riding the pine a little bit and doesn't have a lot of experience in the transfer portal, but he has everything that you want. He has the intangibles. Maybe he just got stuck behind an absolute, day one draft pick, NFL draft pick for 2 years. And he wants to change of scenery, or he wants to move closer to home, or what have you. I take that guy over a 5-star high schooler for sure. He's been practicing against some of the best, positions in college already. That's valuable to me. He's been eating. He's been lifting. Like, there's not very many kids that come in and light it up as a freshman. Very rare. Harold Perkins is about the only one I can think of right now. And ETN. True freshman that really, really lit it up. That I can think of on the top of my head. That guys that were impact players. That Harold Perkins at LSU, that linebacker, I don't know if you saw him, Pigskin. That guy is going to be a problem for a lot of teams. But he'll be... So he's a freshman last year. He didn't redshirt, so he'll be out his junior year. So he's got 3 years left, 2 years left of playing, and then he'll go to the NFL, barring any injury or anything like that, or he gets in trouble. But yeah, it's very rare that you get a true freshman to come in and really light the world on fire. It happens, absolutely, it happens. Wisconsin had a running back like that, Breland Allen, a couple years ago, 2 years ago. We had ETN. It happens. It happens more with the skill position players, though. You don't ever really see it offensive or defensive line. When's the last time you saw a defensive lineman that was a freshman that just wrecked the world? I can't remember one. I don't remember one. So that is a true freshman, not a red shirt freshman or, gray shirted or what have you. Like a true freshman. So, but yeah. I think, what do you, as an OU fan, what is acceptable? I hate doing win-loss. What do you need to see this year to say that Brent Venable that has that team going on the right track? And while you're thinking about it, so what as an Oklahoma fan do you need to see in Brent Venable to say, all right, this is the guy? I hate doing win-loss. Win-loss is dumb because the schedule changes every year. So what do you need to see? Out of Florida, I need to see an improved defense. I need to see a more fluent offense, not so erratic. And I gotta see that the special teams gets better. People don't talk about the special teams a lot, but man, I tell you, special teams, they you know, it's one of those things like they don't like you can have bad special teams all year, and it seems like it doesn't bite you in the ass until you're really counting on them. I gotta see better special teams. I have to. So that's what I need to see from Florida. I don't like doing the win loss thing, but what do you need to see, Pigskin, from OU, essentially to say, look, this program's going in the right direction? Oh, I'd also like to see for Florida. I would like to see the Henderson screen pass to be just thrown away. Wash. Don't ever do it again. We saw it 25 times last year. It didn't work. I think it probably lost us yardage if you look at the totals. And that's not on Henderson. That's just putting a guy that obviously isn't good at that and you're making him do that. That's bad coaching to me. I'd like to see the kind of some of the on the field stuff cleaned up too a little bit. We say that, but every game's different. So, and when you're coaching it, it's tough. So, I think we're going to wrap this thing up here in about 2 or 3 minutes. If nobody decides to call in, but thanks Pigskin for coming on. Thanks UF Short for hanging around. Yeah, even though you didn't call in, just keeping these questions coming, it helps out a lot. Because I only have a couple topics that I want to talk about early, and then the point of the live show is for people to interject and give me stuff to talk about. Like the position group and stuff at Florida. So that helped out a lot. I appreciate you, Pigskin. Thanks for coming on and watching. So we got some big news coming down the pipe. Shelton from High Top Sports is going to be on. And we are working on that this weekend. I don't know if it's going to be a live show or not. And I have a big announcement coming later this week. We got another big podcaster coming on. So I changed the layout a little bit. I got a new microphone. I'm just trying to make this better every single week. Pigskin, how's the microphone sound? Does it sound good? It's not washed out or anything. Let me know. Let's see. So Pigskin says, I know Venerable will get our defense where we want. So I'm guessing that ties into that he's a defensive minded coach, like I asked. I really want to see our wideouts in sync with DG. We really noticed Gundy being gone last year. Okay. So I kind of like that too. Yeah. We saw it last year. And another parallel of Oklahoma. Man, Sooners are closer to Gators than they even know. Yeah, it took to like week 3, and AR comes out on the podium and says, yeah, I think I'm going to start watching film with the wide receivers. What? What? I think I'm going to start watching film with the wide receivers. Like, you don't think that's a good idea? Like, you're going to start doing it now, week 3, after the Kentucky game? So, yeah, I get what you're saying on wide receivers being in sync. And that's a position the quarterback has to rely on those guys and know that, listen, sometimes, I don't know if you watch any film breakdown, Pigskin. If you really, really are bored and you get deep in the weeds of football, he covers UF. But go check out our video. I had Seth V on. And if you just like college football in general and want to see some film breakdown, that is absolutely excellent. Go look at my videos. It's a couple videos back of us breaking down Armstrong. But yeah, man, I see exactly what you're saying there. Yeah. And I think Mertz is throwing a lot more than what AR is. I kind of think AR was halfway in, halfway out. Thanks, bud. I appreciate it. Yeah, that makes me know that I'm doing something right here. So I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like rocket science. Yeah, it is. It's wild. Yeah, it's not a great quote of what you want to hear from your starting quarterback is, yeah, I think I'm going to start watching film with the wide receivers and seeing what they think. Like, no shit, Sherlock. Golly. You would think you would think you would think like that's like day one stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not day one stuff. Maybe teams don't do that. I always thought the quarterback and the wide receivers always sat and watched film together, but that's just me. But I got some food to put on the grill. Thanks, Pigskin, for hanging out. 3:30 every Saturday. We'll be on here. Obviously, we'll change it during college football season. But like I said, thanks again. And we will see you guys later. Thanks for everybody that watched and hung out. And like I said, be on the lookout for some big stuff coming. We're going to have Shelton on from High Top later this weekend. And then we are going to have on another podcaster at the end of the month, and it's a big one, guys. So, I'm also trying to plan something out with Ty to get back on Around the Table. So I'm trying to pump out as much content as I can. But like I said, you guys have a good one. Thanks, Pigskin, for hanging out. Thanks, whoever else is viewing. I appreciate you guys. Always sub and like. Send this out to other people you know that's going to enjoy it. And we will see you guys later.